Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crime and Entertainment. We have here today a guest with a very interesting story. A friend of mine, Matt Cox, told me about him, and we had a phone conversation. We spoke a little bit about it, and it's one of those cases that people I just don't think are aware of that really happens. So please welcome Bill OHanlon. Bill, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, Mr. Williamson, how are you? Thank you for having me on.
Wade, please. Mr. Williamson makes me feel way too old.
Okay. It's a really big deal,
Yeah.
to get the story out. And I'm hoping that maybe other people will start to talk about what they're going through with the FBI and the government that are innocent like me, because the first thing any attorney tells you to do is don't say a word.
Yeah.
Stop, right away, so nobody knows what's going on. And everyone is sitting in sheer terror.
And it's so hard to do that.
It really is. But, I found the courage, to do it. And I won't really talk about any particulars of my case, but I think what you'll see is that you'll find out. Just a little bit of my background. I came from a great family. I grew up and went to grammar school, almost went to grammar school in the Bronx. I was young in the Bronx, New York, and my father went 12 years to NYU on the GI Bill. He served during the German occupation. So he was a VFW, and he went to NYU and graduated from there with his degree. And when he did that, he got a job in Philadelphia, and that took us to South Jersey. And I lived in Washington Township, New Jersey. Great place. Just a great place to live, grow up. Kind of upscale. Dad got a good job after graduating from NYU. So we went from the South Bronx to Washington Township. Well, it was great.
How big of a change
was that? Like, wow, it's awesome here.
How big of a change is that?
Right. So,
I mean, like compare coming from there to where you went, how big of was it a culture change, people change? Like just what kind of a shock to you was that?
Oh yeah. Well, in the South Bronx, we lived on a 5th floor tenement. Mm-hmm. And I would say, well, I mean, I'm Irish and Italian, but we were, my dad used to say we were the last white people in the neighborhood, that it was Puerto Rican and Black. And the neighbor, but we lived there. We were part of the community. Everybody knew who we were. We lived right along with everybody else.
Yeah. And
I used to get both my parents worked, and I would go over to be babysitted by a family on the 5th floor, and they were Puerto Rican. And so I would be over there watching TV as a kid and everything. And I came home one day and I was like, Mommy, I learned how to count to 10 on Sesame Street today. And they were like, oh, okay. And I go ahead, let's hear it. And I was like, uno, dos, tres, because the TV was in Spanish. And you know how kids are. They pick up a language. They don't know better.
Yeah.
So, and my mom was like, Harry, you got to get us out of the Bronx. Still speaking Spanish better than English. So,
that's awesome.
And they did. They're really, really great people. And I just had really nice family, very loving parents. And, but my dad was tough, he grew up in the Bronx. And I mean, it wasn't like today with like cartel gangs and stuff like that, but they were, I think the name of the, gang he was in was called the Irish Dukes or something like that. You ever watch any of those 50s movies like The Wanderers about?
Oh yeah, I love The Wanderers. Right? That was one they made a few years later. I don't think it done like great box office wise, but it was called Deuces Wild, and it was kind of like New York's gangs in the 50s. But yeah, The Wanderers was a good one.
Right, The Wanderers.
Ken Wall was in there, I think. Went on to do The Wise Guys.
My dad was like, "Oh, I knew that gang. That was the Ford and Baldies. They lived on, and they so it was just it was a culture shock, but I loved it. We first initially moved from the South Bronx to Voorhees, New Jersey. And then as my father advanced in his company and he advanced quickly, extremely bright and hardworking. And we moved to Washington Township after that. And I was in 7th grade, I think. So I was still like 12 or something. So we didn't just we went from the South Bronx to Voorhees and then very upscale, although Voorhees is nice too, very nice. But Washington Township is like dream homes for people. And so that's where I went. And then in high school, I was a nationally ranked tennis player. And I thought maybe I'd be a professional tennis player. I went to Camden County College. And after high school, after graduating from high school, and I was ranked 350 in the country, amateur though, not professional, and like 8th in New Jersey. So I was just below, like if you see like a really good NCAA basketball team, and I go back to Villanova when they won with Raul Massimino and Gary McLean was their point guard. Mm-hmm. He was unbelievable, but just shy of the NBA. And that's how I was in tennis, just right below that level. I couldn't, so, but, I was living in New Jersey, for God's sake. It's only warm enough to play 5-6 months out of the year.
Right.
So it was
not a lot of practice time.
Right. Although John McEnroe, he's from New York and he was able to do it. But yeah, so, I then went on to start my business career. I worked at Beneficial Finance back then, and that was at the Morristown Mall, and I was the collection manager. I worked my way up through their career program. And then I worked at Credit Mediators in Philadelphia. And that was a commercial collection agency. So if one business owed another business money, they would place the account and I was the collector on it. So it was a lot of negotiating, not hammering, people like pay your bill. It was more like, there's a restocking fee and different things like that. It was more negotiation than it was just being a nudge, trying to get people to pay their bills. So I cut my chops there, and then I started my own business. I always had the entrepreneurial bug, and I started American Trading International. And back then, there were what's called bulletin board services, and it came from the U.S. Department of Commerce. So if you were in another country and you needed something from the United States, you would post it on the bulletin board service, and then I would call them up and see if I could get them what they wanted. I did a fire truck to Argentina, a used fire truck. So we were doing import export. I did 5 hot air balloons that go on top of car dealerships to Australia. But then I landed a big account. I was the exporter of raw material for convertible tops for BMWs and Mercedes, and was having those tops sent to Johannesburg, South Africa, to a company called German Executive Trim. And then I realized, well, if I could, so I landed that account. I took that away from a German company, and I was working in my parents' basement. I was just, being on the phone, learning how to be on the phone and sell and closing. And Maryland Casualty was my big client. So I contracted with trim shops from Central Jersey to South Jersey. So say a tree fell on top of your BMW and it ripped your convertible top. They would call their insurance. Maryland Casualty would call me. I would have it manufactured in Johannesburg, import it in, get it over to the trim shop, and then the trim shop would install it. So the more tops I sold, the more money I made on the exports. I was killing it. I really was. I just really landed into something. And then what happened is I don't think you're as old as I am, probably nowhere near. I'm 59. But
you beat by a few years. I'm 40.
Oh, yeah, you're much younger. Back then, South Africa was in turmoil with apartheid, and Nelson Mandela became the first Black African black president, I guess you would call it, there. And what they did was they cut off all the money leaving the country. They were afraid that all the white people with money with the new black president would run from the country and take all the money out. So I couldn't get paid anymore because the money couldn't leave the country. So I then went on to, so I went out of business. I couldn't withstand it. And that was my lesson. Don't ever have one client when you're in business and you're an entrepreneur. Have other clients so that you can survive. So I couldn't withstand that. And I got a job back at a company called the offices of Milliken and Michaels. They were all over the country. It was the largest commercial collection agency in the country. And I worked my way up the corporate ladder there. And I became vice president of marketing. And then Milliken and Michaels got bought by a bigger company. It got gobbled up. And anyone making $80,000 a year or more got canned. So I was like, oh my God. So I went from there to starting my own commercial collection agency. I knew how to sell and collect both sides of the business. And again, entrepreneurial, and did outstanding. Really did well, made a lot of money. I focused on, I focused on targeting clients that were 20 employees or less, and they weren't getting paid by bigger companies. They were getting stiffed. A lot of contractors, a lot of subcontractors getting stiffed by the GC.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. Again, I don't like going after the little guy. I want to collect for the little guy that says, oh, thank you for getting that in. I made payroll this week. Things like that,
Yeah.
so.
And just to touch on that really quick, like I've always been in the steel industry, and I worked for a fabricator, and it was insane when I started learning the business side of it. Like sometimes we wouldn't even get paid until that business was opened, and sometimes even opened after 90 days. So you're talking about, we're putting up the fabrication, the steel, which is pretty much the first thing that's going in after they pour the concrete. So then you have to wait on electrical. Then you have to wait on for everything else. Then all the permits and everything else. It could be going a year before you ever see a return on that. So
it's true.
And then if for some reason it happens and it falls through, lots of times you don't get paid. So I'm assuming that's where they call you.
That's right. And sometimes, they got paid, did you see? And then they didn't pay the sub, or they didn't pay the contractor. So So I had a lot of clients there. We also did a lot of shipping and freight, and we just making, really good money at what I considered to be, in my 30s at a young age, just very successful in life. And that commercial collection agency went on and on. And the average career span in commercial collections is 3 years. Usually people get fried, and I did it for a long, like 30 years. And but I liked helping the little guy, and collecting money from big corporations. One year, Macy's filed for bankruptcy in February, right after Christmas. And, so I got all these accounts, distributors, clothing distributors, and they stiffed everybody. So, later on, we were able to collect on some of it, but they never recovered. And you're going to tell me they didn't know they were filing bankruptcy before Christmas? Come on.
Yeah.
So, that's what happens. The little guy gets hurt, and we were going to be there for the little guy. And so that's what
sounds
happened.
like you've got a passion for it, and that's probably what drove you longer than anybody else. Obviously money's nice, but when you have a passion on top of it, that's just kind of a boost.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were good at it. We were good at it too. So, and it's nice because you're helping people.
Right.
So if you can, a lot of salespeople say, if I could just have a job where I could help people, or I could believe in the product or the service, I would sell so much more. So, that's what we were doing. And then in 2010, I had switched over to doing commercial collections for senior citizens that were defrauded in the timeshare industry, both by the resort developer and on the rental resale market. So people would call up seniors and say to them that I have a buyer for your timeshare. I have a check for your timeshare. Pay me $5,000. And in 6 months, you'll have a check for $50,000, like that. It was a greed pitch. It was a lie. It was fraud. And we were able, if they paid by credit card, we were able to get those charges removed from their credit card and get the money back into our client's pocket. And boy, was that successful. And I'm not going to get into the particulars of how we were able to collect up to 7 years on fraud. It's proprietary information. It's private, but we were able to do that. And so we were killing
this whole thing was a fraud. Like there was absolutely no intent for someone to buy it. It was just a sham to get them to send them $5,000 in hopes that someone was going to buy their time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. And they would take them, say 6 months, they take them outside the dispute period on their credit card, and then their phones would be disconnected and they'd be off under another company name doing it again. An unbelievable amount of fraud in timesharing. And it's mostly perpetrated against senior citizens who tend to be more susceptible.
Yeah, vulnerable.
More susceptible. They're from a different generation, the greatest generation, and they trust people.
Right.
And also you run into people that maybe shouldn't still be on their own. They don't have the kids in their lives. They're extremely forgetful. They don't realize how many times they're paying. I mean, we have clients that spent upwards to $150,000 trying to sell or rent their timeshare or get out of it. And their timeshare was only worth 20 grand, if that, so why would you do that? Well, there was a problem, so we would help those people. Now talk about a job that people believed in. Wow. The people couldn't wait to come to work. People loved, you're the first one who's ever helped me, to the salesman. They would hear the collections, and I paid everybody well. I'm a big fan of Henry Ford and read a lot about him and how he ran his company, and he paid his employees well. And when you pay your employees well, you don't need a big HR department because nobody quits.
Yeah.
When you pay them right. So what happened was I was in Miami at the time running that business, and I got a call from a friend of mine that said, Bill, I saw your father in CVS and he didn't recognize who I was. And I was like, what? Because I talk to my father on the phone every day. He sounds fine to me, but you need to come home and check on him. So I came home and checked on him, and he was in his early 80s. And what happened was he had said to me that my sister was threatening to put him in assisted living and sell his home. And he didn't want that. He didn't want to go to assisted living. He could still drive his car at the time. He wasn't ready, but that's what she was trying to do. So.
And then he's back. He's still in the Philly area or right outside New Jersey?
Yeah, still Washington Township, still in Washington Township.
Okay.
And so he asked me, Bill, can you move in with me and help me take care of the home? Because, it was a big home. He had done well. It was a 3,500 square foot home, and he couldn't handle it all by himself. And so
that's a lot of house. Was he right. Your mother? Right. Is she passed away or at this point?
Right. My mom had passed away.
That's a lot of square footage for an older gentleman.
Right. But that was his thing. He loved his home. And, he worked his whole life for that home. Remember, we're from the Bronx. So it was a really big deal.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to leave, and he wasn't ready to leave. So I told him, yeah, I'll move in. Now I'm thinking, I never had any trouble with my sister. We were always friends, and we talked on the phone, and I love my sister. I do. I love my sister to this day. But I'm thinking she's going to think that's good. Billy moved in with daddy and he's helping daddy. And now we don't have to worry anymore because he did need my help. So what happened was the opposite. In 2015, I got a call from her husband, Captain James Noller, New Jersey State Police. So she was married to a captain with the New Jersey State Police. And he starts yelling and screaming at me. He sounded drunk and saying, "Get out of the house. We want to sell it." And I was like, what are you talking about? It's not even your father. So I was like, I'm not leaving the house. If my father wants to stay in his home, he's going to stay in his home. I don't care. And he's like, "I'm going to have you arrested. I'm going to come down there and beat the shit out of you." And I was laughing. He goes, "You don't think I can have you arrested?" And I go, "No, I don't think you can." But boy, was I naive because he did use his power, his influence.
Did you guys have a relationship at all before this transpired? I mean, I'm taking you didn't live in the same areas.
Well, no. I didn't get along with him. He was arrogant. I don't know. Even before, like even when he was in college and stuff, and they met, he's just the kind of person that is unlikable. I don't know how to say it. He's just
rubs you the wrong way.
He's a brute, overbearing, always right, never wrong, and just the kind of person who would like it. I had trouble with him too because at one year at Thanksgiving when they were down, he used the N-word at the kitchen table. And I was like at the dining room table and we had like 10 people over. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm not having that. I don't care if you think that. You're allowed to think whatever you want, but you cannot use the N-word in this house. And you can't use that word. And, I was furious with him and we argued back and forth. And so, I don't like the fact that he's a racist. I just don't. I don't get along with that.
Yeah.
I'm not that way. I'm a Democrat and I'm just not that way. And so when I moved in with my father, I opened up the business and I end up having a heart attack. I had 100% clogged artery and it was twisted in the middle. So I went to Our Lady of Lourdes to have heart surgery and they said they couldn't fix it. I was going to die and they didn't give me very long to live. So, oh my God. And so I just, okay, so now I'm going to die. I'm married. I'm taking care of my father and I'm running this business that I can't show up and be there. Oh, I could barely function with the medications that they had me on. And so I'm like an absentee owner. I have what I thought was a good staff and they were doing great. We didn't have any complaints. That's how we were A-rated with the Better Business Bureau. We were making good money, but more importantly, we were helping senior citizens get money back from fraudsters. Right. And that just meant a big deal to everybody. And so after that phone call, we began getting calls from them every week, get out of the house. We're going to beat the shit out of you. We're going to, just threats upon threats upon threats. Now, this is upsetting to my wife because he's a captain with the New Jersey State Police. And I was like, Karen, he's an idiot. He's just a big blowhard. He's not going to do anything. Well, we had, I think, 3 or 4 complaints with the Better Business Bureau. We were still A-rated. And when you have a few thousand clients, you're going to have some people that complain. It's
Right.
just the way it is.
Yeah.
And my sister called me and she said, I just saw the Better Business Bureau and you're stealing from old people. I'm like, no, I'm not. We work on commission. They get the money first and then we invoice them. So 2 weeks after that, the FBI's banging on my door, 5:30 in the morning in my father's home, my residence for 4 or 5 years. And, or I guess it was 2018 by this time. And they come into the house and they say they have a search warrant, not an arrest warrant, a search warrant. And they went through the whole house, and my father had $50,000 in the attic, and he was just one of those people that he was always afraid of bank failures.
Yeah,
So
that's quite common. They just don't believe in the bank system. They like
right.
cash on hand.
Right. So I guess, he's born in 1933. So I guess he had seen some bank failures,
Oh yeah,
I
I'm
think,
sure.
throughout his life. And so he always had that money in reserve. And so they're very disrespectful when they come into the house with us. You have to understand, I have great reverence for law enforcement. I don't have a criminal record. I'm felony free. To age 59, I don't have any felonies. I have some DUIs in New Jersey, and I don't want to downplay a DUI, but they're misdemeanors. And I'm a sober alcoholic now, 7 years and 10 months.
Congratulations.
So I addressed, after my last DUI, I addressed the problem. And it was a lot of hard work, but I got sober. And so they're in the house. They're abusive to my wife. My father's there, and we don't know why they're here. Like, why are you here? Why is the FBI in our house? And they really never told us why they were in the house. We thought maybe, like, could it be for the business? Really? It's unthinkable because we're A-rated with the Better Business Bureau. It can't be for that. And just didn't know. So excuse me. The detective sits down with me. His name is Michael T. Polton. He's an agent with the FBI. And actually right before he sat down with me, my wife had used the restroom. And she said, they found your father's money. I was like, so? Like, it never dawned on me that they could take money from your house. I didn't know they could do that. So I went upstairs and they were in the spare bedroom. And they had the money in the middle of the bed. And there was like 6 or 7 agents kidding around, throwing the money up in the air, going, we're rich. We're wealthy, just kidding around amongst themselves. And having a good time. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I never thought they could take it. And so now we're at the kitchen table and he's saying, making me sign stuff. And we're like, why are you here? We'll get to that in a minute. Why are you here? So then he makes me sign for the money and it says 32,000. Now I know I'm in trouble. Okay. Because I just know I'm in trouble.
So they had to assumingly count that there for him to already have that paperwork ready? They
were saying the 50,000 was 32,000.
Yeah, but I'm saying they had to count it while they were in the house. I'm assuming to put that 32,000. Okay.
Yeah, but it was 50,000.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just saying
they were trying to force me to sign for it, and I didn't want to sign. I'm like, it's 50,000. It's not 32, and we're going back and forth. And my wife Karen, and my father was like, Bill, please just sign, because they weren't going to leave the house unless I signed. And then they said they would come back and they would go up the street and talk to all the neighbors. And we're like, why are you here? And my dad says, well, I guess we have to shut the business down. And the agent was like, I never said that. I never said, don't put words in my mouth. You don't have to shut the business down. I never said that. And I'm like, why are you here? what are you doing coming into the house, taking money and all of this? So this is what happened. Now, I didn't put the connection together with my sister and her husband. I didn't think, I love my sister. Why? I just I didn't make the connection. I thought maybe it was a misunderstanding. In Florida, the type of business that I was operating is regulated and it's licensed and bonded. And you have to have a business license, a certain type of business license. You have to have your employees that sell the service. They all have to be licensed. You have to submit scripts to the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, and they have to approve those scripts. Well, in Jersey, none of it was regulated. So I don't know what they were thinking at the time, but what I found out later was my father had come to me and he said, oh, Susan talked to your friend today. And I was like, my friend? Who was that? And she said, that guy, Mike. And I was like, Mike? Mike from Cherry Hill? And he goes, no, Mike, the guy who came to the house. I'm like, Dad, I don't know who you're talking about. And he said, yeah, the FBI agent. I was like, what? Why is Susan talking to the FBI agent that came to the house? They're friends. They've known each other for years. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And then I knew it. They were going after my business to get me out of the house so that they could get my father's money, which was an estate of around $3 million. And so that's when I knew it was them. And, could you imagine that's my sister. That's my little sister. That's the one I took care of growing up and looked out for. I'm 7 years older than her. I love her. I love my sister to this day. Why would you do that? Over money? Make false allegations against my company? So that's what happened. And so now I have to get an attorney and represented by, a very good attorney in New Jersey. And they start subpoenaing things. And the attorney said that they want a list of all your clients and your clientele. I said, okay. Which was not a big deal. Who cares? So let's give them all the clients. We're not hiding anything here.
Right.
But what they did was they mailed out a letter to all my clients saying I was being investigated for fraud.
So it looks bad.
And we're like, what? What are you talking? These people have already been defrauded. And now they're saying I'm being investigated for fraud. And they're freaking out, the clients. And what happened is we collected approximately $3 million in a 3-year period for our customers at a 50% commission. Those were about the numbers. But the clients got the money first. And then we invoiced them. We had to trust them to pay us. It wasn't the other way around. That's how collections works, because they were getting credits on their credit card, and then most of them paid their credit card down to zero. And after one billing cycle, the credit card would mail them a check to bring it back up to zero. And then they had the money to pay us because they had a check in hand. That's pretty much how it was going. Right. So, this is unbelievable, right? So the clients, when we would invoice the client for our fee, our commission, we would do a check by phone, like an ACH payment. So we'd send over a thing. We got you back $10,000. You confirmed it. Now our portion of that is $5,000. So we were doing check by phones, not regular checks. And when the clients got these letters, they went into their bank with the letter. And they were saying, oh, this happened to me again. I got a letter from the FBI. Can you help me? And what the banks were doing was reversing all the checks. So they were taking the money out of our business account, putting it back into the customer's account. And meanwhile, services were already rendered,
Yeah.
and we lost between $200,000 and $300,000 in a year because of that. And the FBI sent out multiple letters to our clients, put a toll-free number, and the clients would call. And I remember in particular, there was one customer that we just gotten them back $17,000. So now we want to invoice them. And he said, I just got a letter from the FBI. You're a fraud. And we're like, what do you mean? You got the money back? And he said, well, I'm not paying you because I got this letter. So that's what happened. They were putting me out of business without charging me for a crime. They were sending letters to our banks, asking us to, subpoenaing our records because they're investigating me for fraud. And in doing so, the bank would shut our accounts down. So we're going from bank to bank, still trying to maintain a business. So
you guys had, real quick, you guys didn't have any legal leg to stand on, like with any sort of contract signing or anything like that, being as that you did, like you said, services were rendered. They did get the refunds. You didn't have any sort of leg to stand on?
No, we did, but the banks didn't care. The banks were saying that, all they had to do was call the phone number on the letter, and the FBI agent would say, oh, they're a scam, they're ripping people off. They weren't going to give the money back.
So that 1-800 number was going to the FBI?
Right. Exactly. So there was nothing you could do. A lot of the clients, the services were already rendered. Plus, we had more collections lined up for the clients. Our average client was ripped off about $50,000. So we would do them like we would get them back $10,000, and they invoice them and they pay us, and then we'd move on to the next one. And so this is what's going on here. And what happened is I sent my attorney with a legal team to meet with the FBI about 2 months after the search warrant. And he went in and explained to them, it's like 2 hours, exactly what we were doing. And he said, these people are doing the right thing. They're helping people. These clients are making money. And it just went through the whole thing. It took them a couple of hours. And they were saying, is there, do you have any questions? And they were like, no, we don't have any questions. And you would think they would. I'm still thinking the FBI are good people. I have great admiration for people in the FBI. I'm thinking these are people who keep our country safe. So even though I didn't care for my brother-in-law, that doesn't mean I hate cops.
Right.
I like cops. They keep
and you
us
still
safe.
haven't been charged at this point with anything?
No, I'm not charged with anything.
That's disturbing that they can cause and reach that much havoc without even being charged with anything.
It's very disturbing. And so they were putting me out of business without putting me out of business.
Right.
So can you imagine the FBI comes into your business and our home? They went to our office as well. And on Friday, on payday, when I paid everybody, because we opened up the next day, we didn't shut down. And, the employees quit. There was about 55 employees with that company, and I think 50 quit after they got their check. And they were saying, Bill, I'm sorry. I'm like, we're doing the right thing here. Why would you quit? And so we had to, start over and rehire, and bank accounts, being frozen a day before payday. And God, and now I'm trying to do payroll. If you don't do payroll, people quit.
Yeah.
And
strategic moves as far as freezing bank accounts.
Right. Exactly. And so this is what they were doing to me. Now, remember the Thanksgiving Day issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not there one day, and the FBI comes to my office, just walks in, knows I'm represented, but just walks into the office. Hey, can I talk to you guys? And Latricia Jackson called me on the phone and said, Bill, the FBI is in the office asking people questions. And I was like, well, tell them they're not allowed in the office. I'm represented by counsel.
Yeah.
And she's like, you can't. Bill said you have to leave the office. She's like, Bill said you have to leave the office like that. He's represented by counsel. And then she goes, you're not going to believe what he said to me when he came in front of everyone. I go, what? He said, wow, it's like walking into Camden in here. Now, Camden is a black city in New Jersey, if you're not aware of it. And I don't see that whole race thing. If you can get on the phone and sell and make money, money is green. I don't care what race you are. So word got around that there was a level playing field over here with this owner, and we're helping people get money back from fraudsters, and it's a great job, and he's paying us well, and they knew that they could have a future with me. So I had a lot of African Americans working for me, and which I loved. We had a great time. If you ever want to know how to dress, hire a young black professional. They show me how to wear suits and everything. So anyway, now I'm thinking, oh man, why would that guy say that in front of everybody? It's a disgusting thing to say. And then I'm thinking, Jim Noller, he had several complaints in his jacket for people charging him with racism when he was a police officer. Who does he call? Michael T. Polton. He comes into the office. Oh, it's like walking into Camden in here. That's not funny. These guys are professionals just like anybody else. Mm-hmm. Working, trying to, get buy homes and raise kids and, make car payments. They're no different than anybody else. So I'm thinking, boy, he picked a good one. That's, those guys think alike. And so, this is what I'm dealing with. So finally.
Birds of a feather.
Right. That's right. So finally, what happened was all of this was to get me out of the house so that my sister could put my father into assisted living and could get the money. Okay. She was power of attorney this whole time. In 2017, she was power of attorney, her attorney. My father wanted her to be power of attorney. And I'm like, okay, all I want to do is take care of you. I don't care who's power of attorney. I just want you to live your life out in your home. And so this gets so complex. So they also called the New Jersey State Attorney General. And, again, he's with the New Jersey State Police. So I have the feds investigating me. I have the New Jersey State Attorney General investigating me. And it's too much. You have to remember, I'm just an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. I'm not, Bill Gates here. I know how to sell and collect. That's what I know how to do. I know how to help people get their money back so that I can make a commission.
Right.
And so, I mean, I can't tell you how many things they did to me. I had a salesperson named David Bateman. He opened up an office in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and he called the FBI. He got Michael T. Polton's card, and it was called Flacco and Bateman. And he said, all my salesmen a text that said, if you stay with Bill, you're going to get arrested. But if you come here and work for me, you'll be okay because I'm working with the FBI against Bill. And he sent the guy's card. So with the guy's blessing, Michael T. Polton. So this is what I'm up against. So now everyone quits, goes over there. I'm like, why are you guys quitting? You talk to the clients. The clients are happy. The clients are getting money back. We're not doing anything wrong. But it's the FBI and people are afraid of them. So my salesmen go over to his company. Here I am hiring again, got to start all over again. And they're reversing payments now. They're calling the clients and reversing payments from my business. And they're selling about $50,000 to $100,000 a week, because that's what my business was selling. And but David Bateman, he never paid anybody. He didn't. They were like, when it came time for payday, oh, can you hang in there another week? And this went on for like 3 or 4 weeks. And then they all came back to me and said, can we come back? We're sorry. And I was like, sure, guy, get on the phone.
Yeah.
So
You're a nice guy. You're a nice guy, because I might have would have had some hard feelings for that.
I mean, so Bateman pocketed like $300,000 or $400,000. Didn't pay anyone. Didn't do anything. He's working with the FBI against me, so I guess it's okay for him to steal from people, and that's it. He went off into the sunset somewhere, and I just wasn't about that. I was about. I felt it was God's will for me to be doing this business. I felt like I was going to have to answer for my life someday with the heart condition. And so everything I did was honest and above board. We really tried our hardest. Now, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not going to say I didn't make mistakes, but I took my own money. I rented an office. I put desks in. I bought computers, all with my own money. And I'm trying out an idea, and I'm going to grow the company, because the fraud is tremendous. I could hire 1,000 people and have them make 100 phone calls a day and barely scratch the surface of the fraud that's being perpetrated against senior citizens in the timeshare industry. It's unbelievable. So I was trying to grow the company, and I thought, that I was going to die soon. I actually thought that. That's what the doctors had told me, that I was going to die, that there was no hope, no chance of fixing my heart. Until one day I was in the hospital, and I'd started to spend a lot more time in the hospital than at home.
I was about to say, this had to be stressful as hell for you to be dealing with them with a heart issue like you were describing. I mean, that's not a good recipe.
I didn't have any strength. That was the problem. My greatest asset, look, am I above average intelligence? Yes, but I thrive on hard work. I'm a workaholic. That's where my strength comes in. And I wasn't able to be present in the office because of my heart condition. I was exhausted all the time. Anyway, so I ran across a doctor. You remember now, I'm in Jersey, and he's like, hey, Bill, can you give me a shot at this? I think I can fix it. And I'm like, what? You think you can fix my heart? Because I'm what you call like a devout Catholic. I say a rosary almost every day. Go to mass a few times a week. I believe in God.
Right.
And but I wasn't even praying to God. I believed them when they said there was no hope, and I didn't think a miracle was coming. And they went up on both legs, and they went up with like a wire or whatever. They met in my heart in the middle, one twisted one way and one twisted the other, and they unraveled the twisted artery and then poked through the clots, the clots that were on 2 of them. So I got 2 stents in my heart. The next day I walked out of the hospital a new man. I mean, I felt so much better. I had blood flow again. I had circulation. I was to the point where I couldn't put my right shoe on or right sneaker because my feet were swollen. My right foot was swollen. I didn't have any circulation. And so now I'm back. Now I feel good. And so what happens is I'm taking care of my father. And can I have a cigarette? Yeah. And I'm taking care of my father, and my father we had to take my father to a neurologist because he was getting very forgetful. That we knew could be an issue. Ask you the same thing over and over every 10 minutes. And, but he's a human being. He has feelings, and he didn't remember that he asked a question before. So you can't snap at them.
Right.
You have to say, yeah, it's frustrating, but, he doesn't remember. It's not his fault.
Right. He's
So
not,
we take him-
because he's not listening or not paying attention.
right,
He literally doesn't realize he asked you a question. Was he
right.
aware of what was going on at this time, or was it kind of you didn't want to burden him with that? What was his knowledge of what was going on?
Well, his thinking was like my thinking. The FBI is going to figure out I'm not doing anything wrong. So
You would think that's what most people think. Like if you get accused of something that you didn't do, the first thing that normally comes to your mind is not that, wow, I'm being set up or shafted by the FBI. It's like they'll do their job,
and
they'll
find out.
investigate, and they'll say, oh, we've made a mistake. We've gotten bad information. We've got our wires crossed, whatever. We apologize. Instead, they seem to be doubling down.
Right. That's right. So, again, the agent's friends with my brother-in-law, and he's telling them, oh, he's been stealing from people his whole life. He was an alcoholic and all this stuff. So they kept looking. And just because alcoholism is not like crack addiction, it's not like it's legal. Right. People drink at bars every day and go to work. So they were thinking of me like I'm a heroin addict or a crackhead or something. I wasn't. I had alcoholism. And so it's just a whole different animal. You can drink every night after work and get up and go into work the next day. You can do that. And so he kept feeding him this information. So they kept looking for more. They want to see all my personal emails, and they want to see, and we just kept hitting them whatever they wanted. Here, God, take it. We didn't put up a fight on anything. And because eventually we figured that they would figure out that we weren't doing anything wrong. So you remember when I told you that in Florida, it's a licensed industry. It's regulated.
Right.
Okay. So it's not regulated up there. It's something they haven't seen. Timeshares. Not a lot of time sharing in New Jersey. It's in Florida. Mm-hmm. And we came when I had my company from 2010 to 2015, we came under an audit, an investigation. But it's normal because it's regulated. Collection agencies get audited. They get, it's just the way it is. Any business that's regulated, if you own a stockbroker firm and it's regulated, they audit you to make sure you're doing the right thing. So,
as they should.
Right, exactly. And the results from that investigation were, it's finally nice to see someone's doing the right thing. All your clients are in the plus. And they gave me a pat on the back and they gave me a letter. So this is why I was thinking that the FBI would do the same thing. Because I had already been through an investigation and cleared. So that's what I thought. So what happened is when we took my father to the neurologist, they put him on a medication called memetine. And what it does is it helps with your mind. And I don't know all the specifics of it. But what had happened was it was affecting his blood pressure. So he would feel woozy. That was one of the side effects, or like he felt like he might pass out or fall because his blood pressure was dropping too low. And so we took him to urgent care, and then urgent care sent him over to the hospital at Jefferson Hospital in Washington Township. And what happened is they just needed to adjust his medication, and they did so. Now, prior to this, not much longer, we are under a continuous bombardment of the New Jersey State Attorney General, the FBI, the calls from Captain James Knoller, get out of the house or I'm going to kill you, get out. I'm going to drag you out of the house, over and over. And my wife is scared because he's a captain with the New Jersey State Police. And I was taking a stand, digging my heels in, saying, I'm not going to let my father go into assisted living. But he's getting a little worse now. So my wife says, let him live with your sister Susan and Jim. They said that they want him in his home and they'll take care of him in his home and in their home, I mean, and maybe they can do a better job than us. Let's let them see what it's like to take care of another person. Because I was a hospice volunteer years ago, so I kind of had an idea of how to help an elderly person. And so what we did was she said to me, my sister, just give me a date that you're going to leave. Okay. And I'll be there that day to pick up daddy. All right. So we're going to turn over my father's responsibility to them. All right. They promised they're not going to put him in assisted living. And, of course, the bombardment of everything as well. Karen just said, as long as we live in this house, the FBI and all this stuff will never stop. And I was like, you're right, Karen. She was a saint with my father. She was just a saint. And so we had given them a date that we were going to leave, which was, let's say it was a Thursday. My father was feeling woozy on the Thursday before that. And we brought him to the hospital, or brought him to urgent care and then the hospital. And then they said, he's okay. We're going to discharge him. And I said, why don't you just discharge him to my sister? We're moving in 4 or 5 days per our agreement. And that'll give us a chance to clean up the house and get our stuff out and pack and everything. And they called my sister. The social workers called my sister, and then they called me back and they said, your sister said he's not allowed in their house. Not now, not ever. And I was like, what are you talking about? This was the arrangement. He's supposed to be there on Thursday. It's Friday. So it's a little bit early. So she said, do you want me to call them again? Because she said it was senior abuse, what my sister was doing. So I don't know what she said to her. But that night I received resignation of power of attorney. So whatever that social worker said to my sister scared her, because now she's not power of attorney. Now she's resigned. We've already made arrangements to move. So I'm saying to Karen, we got to take care of daddy some more. And, I think she was looking forward. Taking care of another person is very difficult. Right. And there was 2 of us, me and my wife. And it was still difficult. You got to make sure he has dinner every night. You got to make sure his clothes are clean. We had to have a conversation about me taking his car keys away. I mean, there's just so much that goes on. And plus there's the emotional aspect of you love your father. You're watching him deteriorate right in front of me. And it's tough. It's very emotional. So that night he was discharged to me. I brought him home, and in the middle of the night, he went up to use the bathroom, and he slipped and broke his hip. And it was because he got up too quickly from bed to the standing position. He got up too quickly. His blood pressure dropped. So back to the hospital again. So now back to the hospital. I'm on the phone with my attorney going, what am I going to do here? I just got resignation of power of attorney. I'm supposed to move. And he said, you can't do that, Bill. Not that I would, but what do I do now? What is this legal responsibility that I have? And he said, look, let me come over there. Your father's in the hospital. We'll have power of attorney signed over to you, not back to you, but to you. And this way you can, if something happens to him, the state doesn't take the money or something. So that's what he was saying. So I'm like, okay, based on my attorney's recommendation, he comes over. We have to show my father the resignation of power of attorney. He's upset. Oh my God, Susan's not going to look out for me when I needed her most. He's crying. This was really hard. He was supposed to move in and live with them. He was looking forward to it. He was going to be around his grandkids. And now it's me and Karen taking care of him at the house again. And so he went from the hospital to a place called Morristown Powerback Rehab in Morristown, New Jersey. And he went there for rehabilitation. Now you have to remember, this is during COVID.
Yeah.
You can't get any visitors. So Karen and I said, we can't visit him. He needs to be in there. We still talk to him on the phone every day. Why don't we go to Florida and take a break? So it's been, years since we had taken a vacation. So we went to Florida. I always maintained my residence in Florida, even though I was living in New Jersey. And so we were there, and I'm down there. And what happens is a friend of mine calls me and says, Jim and Susan are emptying out the contents of your home. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? They can't do that. And she's like, I'm power of attorney again. This is the way it's going to be. This is what daddy wants. And now they had their chance. We weren't there. And they were emptying out everything that we owned. But you just think about it. You go on vacation and everything you own is in your home. And people are taking it out. And I call the police. And I say to the police, they're burglarizing my home. Also, under COVID, no one's allowed. Let's say that the power of attorney they're talking about was legal. Let's just say it was. It wasn't legal. He had dementia. He was diagnosed with dementia.
Right.
Let's just say it was. You can't move people out of their homes under COVID. You can't do it. It's against the law. It's an executive order. The governor, you can't do it. So I call the police. Captain James Noller, he's ripping off old people. Call the FBI agent. Fell on deaf ears. They removed everything. They took my car. They took everything.
Jesus.
I didn't bring my car on vacation. And they took everything. You just think about it. Computers, TVs, memory, stuff that maybe you treasure. I had a 10-speed twin Continental that my father gave to me on my 14th birthday that I had restored, and it was in perfect condition. I love that bike. You know what I mean? It had nostalgia to it.
Wow.
It was a collector's item, but I loved it. So everything we own is gone. We're left in Florida in shorts and T-shirts.
Jesus.
I mean, I get an attorney. He sends their attorney a letter. You can't do this under COVID. They just laugh and laugh and laugh. And so during this period of time in Florida, I have I get, do you know what a reverse proffer is? A reverse proffer is
A reverse proffer. I've never heard of that.
right. It's when the government lays their case on the line to you so that you take a deal. And
Okay.
I'm not taking any deals. Okay. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not doing it. And of course, everyone's like, it's the government, they win 99% of their cases. And I was like, I don't care. So I listened to this reverse proffer. And one of the things that we offered our clients for free was we would advertise their timeshare on our website. And if anybody wanted to go on vacation, we'd match them up. But that was free. We were a collection agency, and we were getting people money back. And sometimes they were paying fraudsters again because they were stuck with this anchor of a maintenance fee every year and they're on fixed income. So they were trying again over and over. So we figured we would legitimately do it. And if we matched up 78 people. With 78 people that wanted to go on vacation, we matched up 78 clients that wanted to rent their vacation. So we actually did it. So in this reverse proffer, all they talk about is the rentals. And we're like, what? We're a collection agency. So my attorney says, well, did you investigate any of the collections? Because we collected millions. And they said no. And I was like, why? And they said, well, if the rentals was a fraud, which it wasn't, then so were the collections. So why look into it? So they didn't even know. You're talking about clients, they pay us $2,000 or $3,000. It means they're getting back $4,000 or $6,000. We would get typically half of whatever we collected.
Right.
And so I'm not taking any deals on that. I'm not doing it. So what happens next is the New Jersey AG. I wake up one morning and my friends are texting me and they said, Bill, you're all over the newspapers. The New Jersey AG got a $10,000 judgment against you. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I Google my name and there it is. All right. And so I call my attorney and I'm like, what is this? Well, they said they mailed everything else they did with me was certified mail, except for my court date that we wanted to go in and present the collections, right? So in my absence, they found a $10 million judgment against me. So my attorney's like, don't worry, we'll get in. So a couple months later, we get before a judge. And again, rentals. And we're like, well, Your Honor, they had 3 victims, the New Jersey AG said, out of thousands of customers. And meanwhile, this cost me a fortune. You know that, Mr. Williamson. This is costing me a lot of dough in legal fees. I spent over $2 million to date in legal fees. And so my attorney says they offered 2 services, Your Honor. They offered collections, recovery, and they offered the rental advertising. And so the judge said to the prosecutor, are you counting the collections towards what the customers paid them? And she says, no. And he said, well, in victim number 1, let's look at that. How much did the customer pay? $4,000. Did they get any rentals? No, they got no rentals. Did they get any collections? Yes, they got back $10,000. So my customer, the first victim, is plus $6,000. What? This is the fraud that you're talking about? I'm the worst fraudster in the world. All my clients are making money with us.
Yeah.
And he just started writing the judge, very nice judge, Judge Paganelli, and he wrote it up, vacated the judgment, overturned everything right then and there. And we haven't heard people on because they're not really coming after me because they think I did something wrong. They're coming after me because of Jim Noller.
Yeah.
That's what's happening here. So that goes away. And since the date of the search warrant, the government has 5 years to charge it.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 years and 11 months go by, and then they start banging on my door again in Miami. Now they have an arrest warrant, and they arrested my wife, took us out in shackles. The one agent put me in the hospital that day. I wasn't fighting with anybody. I just had my hands, and he just took his boot and took all the skin off the back of my calf. And when we were over there in Miami police station, they were like, what happened to you? And I was like, a guy kicked me. He took, ground down on my leg. And he's like, you need to go to the hospital. Now all the FBI agents are mad at me and, and I'm like, I don't want to go to the hospital. I don't want to go. I just want to get before a judge and bond out. That's all I want to do. Me and my wife are sitting there. It's unbelievable. You got to understand, we've never committed any crimes in our life. So, and it's not like we're 20 years old or 20, Karen's going to be 62. I'm going to be 60. We're not kids.
Right.
All of a sudden, at 60 years old, I turned into some diabolical scammer. I didn't.
And what are they
And
charging you with there?
they charged me with wire fraud, and stealing from the government. And what else did they charge me with? Oh, tax evasion. So I didn't realize look, there's no wire fraud. Okay. Not only did you destroy my company, but we had done, we refunded a lot of people if we couldn't collect money for them. So if we were so confident in our collections, though, as long as they cooperated with us, they were going to get money back. But there were circumstances where maybe someone filed for bankruptcy and they wiped their credit card debt out. Well, now I can't get them their money back, and we would refund people like that. And so we did 130,000 in refunds. We lost close to $300,000 in reversals, and we turned away $400,000. What a turn away is, maybe a salesman says, this customer said that they have more collections to do, another 20,000 in collections, and I'm going to charge them $5,000 instead of $10,000. And we used to charge a nominal upfront fee because the customer has to have skin in the game, anywhere from $500 to $2,000. And that you get assigned a collector, and we'd start sicking our collectors and start to help these people get their money back. So maybe they might say, I worked out a deal. No, we're not going to accept that money because the collector's notes say that the customer doesn't have any more collections. So if they have more collections, give it to us and we'll do it on commission. So we turned away $400,000.
Jeez.
And what fraudster does that? Who turns away $400,000?
And not a good
fraudster. But luckily, thank God for my wife, Karen, she kept meticulous records. Meticulous. So we have records of everything. So now I'm arrested by the feds. And in Florida, when I moved to Florida, the other company, it was done. The banks are shutting the accounts down, so we started out fresh with the new company in Miami, and we hooked up with attorneys that help people cancel their timeshares. So we're the only company in the country, because there are a lot of companies out there that'll cancel your timeshare. It's expensive, but they'll cancel it. And we're the only company that does recovery for people. Now, think about this. They've been ripped off 5 times. They're not going to pay for a cancellation. That's too expensive.
Right.
But they will pay to see if we can prove ourselves with collections. And we would do that. And then we prove ourselves with collections. And they would say, can you help me get out of my timeshare? Yes, we can. We have an attorney network that we're using. So we were getting to the root cause of the fraud, which was timeshare ownership. We were killing it. The company was on course to do $15 million in last year. So I also had started 5 travel agencies. All right. So travel affiliate companies. And I had started a sober house. Remember, I'm a sober alcoholic. And I had bought a franchise, for automotive repair franchise, All Tune and Lube. So I had Ryan, James, and Daniels Corporation, which was an international holding company overseeing. It was all these other companies was the umbrella underneath. Well, I mean, you're not going to believe this. All right. So Karen and I bond out, but our other companies, we weren't arrested for anything else we were doing. Again, A-rated with the BBB. The one company, I think, had 4,200 clients, and we had like maybe 10 complaints. Really good track record. Really good. I mean, excellence. We were premier. I demanded a lot from my people. I demanded excellence, but I paid you well. So, but again, same thing, second chance company. If you have a criminal record that may have had to do with drugs or alcohol and you had a felony, I would give you a chance because that was my way of helping and giving back.
Mhm.
It's part of my program of recovery. Is that I have to help other people stay sober myself. And that was my way of doing it as an employer. I'm going to give you a job. And it's really important because if you are at work for 8 hours and you sleep 8 hours, now you only have to stay clean and sober 8 hours. So that's manageable. And in the beginning, that's very helpful.
Oh,
Plus,
yeah.
you need a paycheck will give you self-esteem. Alcoholics suffer from very low self-esteem. And, getting a check, you're able to pay your rent at the sober house. And some of them they were involved in carpeting and different things. And they left us and went off to have nice careers. They got clean and sober and got back into their profession. We were just a stepping stone for them. So, there were people that worked for us that we had corporate housing. We were relocating people from all over the country, but the same thing. Word got around. If you work with Bill and you're African American, you're going to get us around, give the good leads to somebody else. Everybody gets the same leads. It's a level playing field here. Almost like in the military. Let me take a drink. Hold on. So we had the prosecutor is now trying to violate me and Karen, me, not Karen, and put me in jail until my court date because she says I'm violated my pretrial release. She said that I wasn't allowed to look at personal information of someone that was part they call it PPI.
Mhm.
So I did. But when the pretrial officer came out to the house, we had a small customer service at the house in the den, and he saw a payroll check. And he was like, "Oh, you see people's personal information." I was like, "I didn't even go in there. That's accounting. I'm not in accounting." But that, and then they said that I had contact with law enforcement and I didn't report it. And I'm supposed to report contact with law enforcement. What had happened is one of my managers that I'd given a chance with a criminal record had stolen leads and our database, our clientele database with our customers' financials, and started his own company. And I filed a police report against him, but I didn't report that to my pretrial officer because I guess I thought they meant if I got pulled over or something like that, if I called myself, and I don't know, I've never been in trouble before, so I made a mistake. So now the prosecutor's trying to put me in jail until my court date, and saying I'm a threat to the community. So I was faced with a choice that day. I had to either shut every business down that I had, or I was going to go to jail. So 125 people lost their jobs in a single day with Ryan, James, and Daniels. 100 African Americans make it with 6-figure incomes.
Jeez.
A total loss of 500 jobs were affected. And you remember that Michael T. Bolton, what he said? And my brother-in-law, I can't help but think that they're like, it must be a fraudster. Look at all the African Americans that work there. But
yeah,
in a single day, they put all the businesses under, or they told me I had to close up shop. And I'm not allowed supposedly to work or even do charity work or whatever. But I'm running for office. I'm running for mayor of Washington Township. That I'm allowed to do. All right. So, and I'm the front runner. I'm the Democratic front runner there. And so a $15 million year was put out of business. More than 500 jobs were affected. And they destroyed everyone's life because of my brother-in-law and my sister. I had relocated people from California, from Chicago, from Seattle, and we had corporate housing, and they moved their life here and had a really good job. And they're living in South Florida, which is a dream for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And well, in one day, the company was gone. And the bank accounts, I don't know what happened with that. The government took either millions. The banks are saying, well, no, we gave the money back to the customers. No one will give me a straight answer, but all the money is gone from the bank accounts. And the employees' last paycheck bounced.
Jeez.
You imagine. People are calling me, Bill, can you lend me money? You know what I'm saying? These people are getting good paychecks, $2,000, $4,000, $5,000 checks.
Yeah.
And they were living accordingly. They were buying cars and homes and putting kids in private school, and they had a really good job, and everyone believed in what we were doing because it's very rewarding when a senior citizen calls you up and you're their sales rep and they say, boy, I know I gave you a really hard time, but the collector just got me back $5,000 and I need a new hot water heater or something, and it's $1,800, and now I can pay for it because these senior citizens are on fixed incomes.
Right.
And so everyone was on board with it. Everyone was getting out of their timeshare that paid us. We sent it over to the attorneys and they got them out 100% of the time. And so that's what happened. And I think people need to know about it. I really do.
When was this, like, since these last events happened? Like, how recent?
Well, the pretrial office hearing was just a few months ago.
Okay.
It was just a few months ago. So I think the arrest was in April.
So what's the next step as of right now?
Well, my attorneys are gathering all the collection information to provide proof of all the collections and that the clients were making double and triple what they paid with the firm.
So, I mean, is it going to trial? Is there some sort of maybe, an immunity hearing or something before that?
I'm going to trial.
Okay.
I'm going to trial. If you want, I have a GoFundMe account. It says save Bill. That's it. If you GoFundMe and save Bill, I don't care if it's $1. I've spent $2 million in legal fees, and they're just laughing at me. They're letting me know that they're the boss. It's not me. And this is I really have had a paradigm shift in my head taking place here because you don't know. I used to love cops.
Yeah.
Even if I got pulled over, I wasn't giving them a hard time.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, man, stay safe tonight because I thought I didn't know how corrupt the system was. This is all brand new to me.
Most people don't.
You can do this. You can shut their businesses down that are A-rated with the BBB. And you can do all of this with me never being convicted of a crime. I'm a Navy veteran. I'm 60 years old almost. I mean, I've lived a life of, excellence, really. And you did this. You did it to people trying to get sober. You did it, with the sober house. You did it to people because I would let those people slide on rent. It was a scholarship program. So people would send someone, let's say from Philly, and they would come down here. We pick them up at the airport. We get them into detox. and then we get them into the sober house and give them 2 free weeks rent. And after that, you needed to get a job.
Yeah.
If you couldn't find a job, we'll hire you as a fronter with our firm. So you can't say you can't find anything. And some of them worked out and ended up being good sales closers. And some of them got back into their own fields. Some of them relapsed. It's just the way it is.
Right.
And
but it's almost a form of like cancel culture, because once they charge you, then your name's put in the papers. It's obviously nowadays on social media. It's on every news site in your local area. Then, in your case, you actually own the companies, but like, I had a situation not in the same lines of what you had, but I was charged with something that I didn't do. So my job immediately fired me. And
right.
and that's without going to trial. Just a charge. That's no trial, no nothing. This is just because of the charge they fired me. Now this is pending. So obviously I can't get any job that's going to run a background check, because what I was being charged with was pretty serious. So that immediately eliminates you from trying to gain gainful employment, meaningful employment. Right. And it handicaps you so much. And if you don't have access to money, like thankfully you did, for the first portion of this, that's where a lot of people wind up being forced into taking plea deals, because they can't afford to fight the situation, and they basically box you into a corner.
That's right.
And so I understand what you're saying. And I mean, I wish you the best on fighting this. I would ask you to please stay in touch and kind of let me know updates with it, because we both know that the court systems and the wheels of justice don't turn, very fast. It's very slow moving at best. And that's given a lot of credit saying that. So, I mean, and they may have beefed up a little bit. I don't know about New Jersey. At least in South Carolina, they turn very slow. But I mean, I'm rooting for you, man, to beat this. I mean, I really am.
Well, we weren't fraudsters.
Right.
We were helping people. We were helping them get money back. And
that's what makes it so bad.
What they did was they took like four and a half years of investigating, and they found out of several thousand, like over 4,000 customers, maybe 15 people that said they didn't get any collections or whatever. And it's like, okay, but I didn't know that we had to be perfect.
Yeah.
They demand absolute perfection. Like, what? We were still working on some of those accounts. Like, so of all those customers, they could, in all that time, they could only come up with 15 people. That's really good. It's not really bad. That's really good. It's certainly not defrauding anyone. If we were defrauding people, these senior citizens, they know. They would have got on attorney generals. They would have filed complaints. They know what they're doing. They don't work. They have all day to file complaints. Mm-hmm. And we would have thousands of complaints if we weren't helping people, but we were. So I've decided to change the system. I can't stand if the system is corrupt. Our institutions have failed us. Mm-hmm. So I'm running for mayor of Washington Township. You can go to OHanlonformayor.com, and I put up some videos there on what I'm going to do and how I'm going to transform the Black Horse Pike and beautify it again. And so I've decided to turn my thinking to help the community that I grew up in that gave me so much. So that's what I've decided to do. So I'm campaigning. I'm a Democrat and a lifelong Democrat, and that I want to make changes. I don't want people to be falsely charged with anything and have to go through this. And you're right, because if you don't have any money to defend yourself, then you're going to prison. You can't fight these people. It's impossible because they have unlimited resources. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, it's very hard.
They say if you want to make change, you have to do it at the local level. So that's why I'm running for mayor. Okay, that start making change at the local level, and
progress.
then maybe we'll see how it goes. Win or lose, I'm going to make my argument.
Well, and that's the big thing. Be
I
heard.
have my health back. Yay.
And
my heart's
congratulations
fixed.
on that. I was wondering as we were progressing through the story, because I was learning a lot on the way. I'm like, geez, I hope this man, got their heart trouble figured out, because this story is enough to stress me out over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we will put a link for that. The link you just described, where they can go and check out what you're doing, running for, the office there. We'll put a link to that in the description. We'll also put a link to the GoFundMe as well. Are you on any types of social medias?
We have OHanlonformayor.com. We have OHanlon2024.com. And then we have the GoFundMe, which is Save Bill. Come on. I only need another 500,000 to go to trial. That's all I need. I spent $2 million. So I'm not taking any pleas. I'm just not. If I end up spending the rest of my life in prison, then I've already come to that. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think God's going to protect me. And the numbers are there. Right. If you pay someone $2,000 and they get you back $10,000, there's no fraud. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. So
I can see where you have the faith that the numbers will work out in your system, and this you don't have. I felt the same way in my case. I'm like, if you put everything involved in my case in front of 12 people and they all decide that I did wrong, then I guess I'll have to face it. But I don't think you could do that.
Right.
And I think they realized it too, which is why the whole thing was dismissed, which could be a possibility in your case. Maybe it will get dismissed. You never know. A lot of times they'll bluff right up to the wire. It sounds like they have to kind of go forward here. Otherwise they might be opening the door to, a suit back towards them. But
the prosecutor told my attorney, she calls us Billy and Karen. We spent too much money on Billy and Karen to just let them go scot-free. That's a quote. And I'm like, what? I was thinking it was going to be like the Florida AG where they're like, hey, congratulations, you're doing good. No, just the opposite. And it's not right. People should not be treated like this. It's as if our own government is hating on our citizens. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. It wasn't like that when I was younger. You didn't have the fear of God of the FBI and law enforcement. You always felt like they were with you, your friend. Yeah. They used to, in township, like back in the 80s, they lived amongst us. We had FBI agents, we had police officers, and they would come to your barbecues. And now it's as if they've completely separated themselves from the community, and all they do is hang out with each other. Yeah. That's it. They're just friends with each other, and all they do is tell each other how great they are, and they've come to believe that. And it's not true. They have failed us. Mm-hmm. They've failed us miserably, and whenever you stand up to them, they make it a point now to drive you into the ground to say, you're not going to do that to us. You're not going to, what? You think you're going to run around and say you're not guilty? Watch what we do next. We'll close your bank accounts. We'll, just all the horrible things that they did to Karen and I. And they never once told us to shut the business down until this last thing. They never once did. So thank you for having me, Mr. Williamson. It's, I really appreciate it.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on. I think these stories are, they're must listens, watch it. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're on audio, they're must hear stories, because you never know when you can find yourself in a situation like this. And I certainly appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. And like I said, we'll put all those links in the show notes in the descriptions. And Bill, please keep me updated on your situation. You have my thoughts and prayers, my friend. I hope everything works out for you.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson. Have a good night.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am Hollywood Wade. That was Bill Hannon, and we are out of time. Tune in next week for an all-new episode of Crime and Entertainment. Bill, we appreciate it, my friend.
All right. Bye now.